I stood in my childhood dining room watching my mother, Dorothy, raise a champagne glass during her 60th birthday celebration. Family members smiled around the table when Dorothy delivered her shocking toast. You want to know what would be the perfect birthday gift, Lillian, finally leaving my life for good? The room fell silent. My heart shattered as nervous laughter filled the space. My stepfather, Marcus, shifted uncomfortably, while my half-sister Jenny stared at her plate. I realized this moment would change everything between us forever. The silence stretched like a taut wire ready to snap. I forced my lips into what I hoped resembled a smile, my cheeks burning with humiliation. Well, that's quite the birthday wish, Mom. I managed my voice steadier than I felt inside. Marcus cleared his throat awkwardly. Dorothy, maybe that came out wrong. Did it? My mother's eyes locked onto mine with cold determination. Because I meant every word. Jenny finally looked up from her plate, her face pale. Mom, that's really harsh. I excused myself to the bathroom, my legs trembling as I walked down the familiar hallway, lined with family photos. Photos that suddenly felt like evidence of a life I'd been foolish to think I belonged in. I locked the door and leaned against it, my breath coming in short gasps. Through the thin walls, I could hear hushed conversations drifting from the dining room. She's been impossible lately, Dorothy's voice carried clearly. Always questioning my decisions, always criticizing Marcus. Maybe she has a point about some things, Jenny said quietly. Don't you start too, Dorothy snapped. I've sacrificed enough for that girl. 28 years of putting her needs first, and this is how she repays me constant judgment and disrespect. My chest tightened. Sacrificed for me, I thought about the past 3 years since she married Marcus. Every family gathering where she chose his side over mine. Every time I'd tried to express concern about their finances, only to be dismissed as jealous or controlling. The breaking point had been 2 weeks ago when I discovered she'd loaned Marcus's stepson, Tyler, $15,000 from Dad's life insurance settlement, money that was supposed to be her safety net. When I questioned the wisdom of lending such a large sum to someone with a known gambling problem, she accused me of being spiteful and unwelcoming to our new family. I splashed cold water on my face and stared at my reflection. At 28, I was barely scraping by as a marketing coordinator living paycheck to paycheck in a cramped studio apartment. Meanwhile, Tyler was driving around in a brand new pickup truck, courtesy of my father's memory. She doesn't appreciate anything, Marcus was saying when I returned to earshot. Always stirring up trouble, making Dorothy upset. I think she's just worried about Mom, Jenny offered weakly. Worried? Dorothy laughed bitterly. She's jealous that I found happiness again. She can't stand seeing me move on from her father. I gripped the bathroom doorknob, my knuckles white. That wasn't true. I wanted Mom to be happy, but Marcus wasn't the gentle, caring man she believed him to be. I'd seen the way he looked at her bank statements, the way he steered conversations toward money, the way Tyler smirked whenever Mom wrote another check. When I returned to the dining room, the conversation shifted to safer topics. The birthday cake appeared, candles were blown out, and gifts were opened. I sat through it all like an actor playing a role, nodding and smiling at appropriate moments while my world crumbled internally. Marcus presented Dorothy with diamond earrings that probably cost more than I made in 2 months. Jenny gave her a spa day package. I'd brought homemade photo albums filled with memories from our trips together, back when it was just the two of us. Dorothy barely glanced at them before setting them aside. Thank you, honey, she said with the same tone she'd use for a grocery store cashier. The party wound down around 10. Jenny hugged me goodbye, whispering, "I'm sorry," in my ear. Marcus shook my hand with his usual politician smile. Dorothy offered her cheek for a perfunctory kiss. "Drive safely," she said, already turning away to collect dishes. I drove home through empty streets, my mind replaying the evening on an endless loop. The 20-minute drive to my neighborhood felt like hours. When I pulled into my building's parking lot, I noticed something white tucked under my apartment door. My stomach dropped as I unfolded the official notice. Eviction wasn't the right word. It was a notice that the building had been sold. All tenants had 30 days to vacate. 30 days to find a new place I couldn't afford in a city where rent prices climbed higher every month. I sat on my cramped couch surrounded by the life I'd built from scraps, a life my own mother wanted me to remove from hers entirely. The unfairness of it all crashed over me like a wave. I'd been the one caring for her during her cancer scare last year, driving her to appointments, staying overnight at the hospital. I'd been the one organizing family gatherings, remembering birthdays, keeping our small family connected after Dad died. And this was my reward, a public humiliation and a wish for my absence. My phone buzzed with a text from my college roommate, Sarah. "Hope your mom's birthday was wonderful, still thinking about our conversation last week." Sarah, successful real estate agent in Portland, always encouraging me to visit, always saying I was wasting my talents in this dead-end job. We talked last week about how different my life could be if I took some risks, made some changes. I stared at the eviction notice, then at my phone, then at the photo albums my mother had dismissed. A wild idea began forming in my mind, dangerous and liberating and terrifying all at once. "You want me gone, Mom, fine, but you'll get exactly what you asked for." Monday morning arrived gray and drizzling. I called my supervisor, Tracy, and told her I had the flu. My voice carried just the right amount of congestion to sell the lie. "Take your time recovering," Tracy said. "That bug's been going around." If only she knew what kind of bug had really infected me. The kind that made you question everything you thought you knew about family and loyalty and love. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad creating lists. Moving companies, job applications, banking tasks, personal connections to handle. Each item felt like cutting another thread tying me to this life. My first stop was First National Bank, where I'd maintained accounts since college. What I discovered there made my hands shake as I reviewed the statements. 3 years ago, during Mom's cancer treatments, we'd opened a joint checking account so I could help manage her medical expenses and daily needs while she recovered. The account was supposed to be temporary, just for emergencies. I deposited my tax refund that year, $3,000, to help with her mounting bills. Now the account held $47,000. When was the last deposit made? I asked the teller, a kind woman named Patricia, who'd helped our family for years. "Let me check. It looks like there have been regular deposits over the past 18 months. The account holder, Dorothy, has been using this as her primary savings from what I can see." My throat felt dry. Mom had been hiding money from Marcus. Probably her entire retirement fund, plus Social Security payments, plus whatever remained from Dad's insurance settlement. She'd been funneling everything into an account Marcus didn't know existed, which meant the $15,000 she'd given Tyler came from here, money she'd hidden while crying poor about her fixed income. "I need to freeze this account," I told Patricia. "I'm concerned about potential fraudulent activity." Patricia's expression grew serious. "What kind of fraudulent activity?" I manufactured a worried frown. "Someone may have gained unauthorized access. I need time to investigate before any more transactions occur." The process took 2 hours. I withdrew my original $3,000 plus accumulated interest, about $12,000 total. The rest would remain frozen pending investigation. As the primary account holder, I had every legal right to protect the funds. Next stop, Beckon's Moving Company. A cheerful representative named Dave walked me through options for long-distance moves. "When are you looking to relocate?" Dave asked. "This Friday. I know it's short notice." Dave consulted his schedule. "We can make that work. Where are you headed?" "Portland, Oregon." "Beautiful city. New job opportunity." I smiled for the first time in days. Actually, yes. The call to Sarah went better than I'd hoped. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright with enthusiasm. "Lillian, what a surprise. How did the birthday party go?" "It was enlightening," I said carefully. "Listen, remember when you mentioned your firm might have openings?" "Are you serious?" "Yes." "We desperately need someone with your marketing background. The salary starts at $75,000 plus commission opportunities. When could you start?" $75,000, more than double my current income. My rent in Portland would be what I currently paid, but my quality of life would improve dramatically. How about 2 weeks from today? Sarah's excitement was infectious. I'll email you the paperwork today. Oh, Lillian, this is going to be amazing. You can stay in my guest cottage until you find your own place. The rest of Monday and Tuesday passed in a blur of systematic disconnection. I contacted my utilities companies, scheduling final readings. I visited my current employer's HR department, submitting paperwork for immediate resignation due to family emergency requiring relocation. Each phone call felt like shedding old skin. Internet service canceled. Newspaper delivery stopped. Magazine subscriptions address changes submitted. Doctor and dentist offices' medical records requested for transfer. Wednesday brought the hardest tasks, telling people goodbye without explaining why. My coworker Amanda cornered me in the break room. You're really leaving just like that. Sometimes life forces your hand, I said, filling my coffee cup for what would be the last time. But what about your mom? Doesn't she need you, especially after her health scare? I met Amanda's concerned gaze. My mom has made it very clear that she doesn't need me. She has Marcus and Jenny. She'll be fine. My phone had been buzzing regularly since Monday night. 7 missed calls from Mom, 12 text messages ranging from confused to irritated to demanding. I let them all go to voicemail, reading the transcripts instead of listening to her voice. Lillian, what's this about the bank account being frozen? Call me back immediately. This is ridiculous. I need access to my money. Fix this now. Marcus says there must be some mistake. Call the bank and clear this up. The messages revealed everything I needed to know. She wasn't concerned about my well-being or wondering why I hadn't returned her calls. She was panicked about the money. Thursday evening brought the most telling voicemail yet. Lillian, I don't know what game you're playing, but it needs to stop. Tyler had a medical emergency and needs surgery. We have to access those funds immediately. This isn't the time for one of your dramatic tantrums. Call me back tonight. I researched Tyler online, something I should have done months ago. His social media profiles painted a clear picture. Photos from poker games in expensive hotel suites, videos of him placing bets at racetracks, screenshots of casino winnings he'd posted and then quickly deleted. His medical emergency was actually an arrest. The local newspaper's police blotter, buried on page 6, told the real story. Tyler Morrison had been charged with running an illegal gambling operation that resulted in one participant's hospitalization during a fight over disputed winnings. Bail was set at $15,000. So Mom wasn't funding Tyler's medical bills. She was funding his legal troubles using money she'd hidden from her own husband. I packed my last box Thursday night, taping it shut with more force than necessary. Every item I wrapped felt symbolic. My college textbooks representing dreams I'd deferred to stay close to family. My photo albums full of memories that apparently meant nothing to the people who'd shared them. My father's watch, the only inheritance Mom hadn't found a way to redistribute to her new family. Friday morning, the movers arrived promptly at 8. Dave supervised his team with professional efficiency, wrapping my meager possessions like they were precious artifacts. Traveling light, Dave observed approvingly. Makes everything easier. Lighter than he knew. I was traveling without the weight of obligation guilt and one-sided love that had anchored me to this place for 28 years. As the moving truck pulled away, I took one last look at the apartment building that had been home for 3 years. Small and cramped and probably overpriced, but it had been mine. The first place I'd lived independently without considering anyone else's needs or preferences. My phone rang as I loaded my suitcases into my car. Mom's number flashed on the screen. I stared at it until it stopped ringing, then deleted her contact entirely. Portland was 18 hours away by car, 18 hours to think about what I'd left behind and what I was driving toward. The money would keep Mom temporarily comfortable even with the account frozen. Jenny would help her navigate the banking situation. Marcus would probably reveal his true colors once the financial stress mounted. I programmed Sarah's address into my GPS and pulled out of the parking lot without looking back. You wanted me gone, Mom. Consider it the best birthday gift I ever gave you. The drive to Portland took 19 hours, including stops for gas and food. I'd underestimated how liberating it would feel to cross state lines, watching the landscape change from familiar to foreign. By the time I reached the Oregon border, my chest felt lighter than it had in months. Sarah's cottage exceeded every expectation. Nestled behind her main house on a tree-lined street in southeast Portland, it featured hardwood floors, a stone fireplace, and windows that flooded the space with natural light. After my cramped studio apartment, it felt like a mansion. "This is temporary," Sarah insisted, helping me carry bags inside. "Just until you find your own place, though honestly, you're welcome to stay as long as you want." "I can't believe this is your guest house," I said, running my fingers along the smooth granite countertops in the kitchenette. "My ex-husband's guilt money at work." Sarah grinned. "He cheated I got the house and enough settlement money to build this. Best revenge is living well right." Monday morning, I walked into Cascade Realty wearing my best interview outfit and trying not to gape at the sleek office space. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Willamette River. Modern art hung on exposed brick walls. This wasn't just a step up from my previous job. It was a leap into a different universe. Sarah introduced me to the team as their new marketing coordinator, but the position came with significantly more responsibility than my previous role. I'd be developing campaigns for luxury properties, managing social media presence for individual agents, and creating promotional materials for corporate clients. My first project involved marketing a historic downtown loft conversion. The commission structure meant I'd earn bonuses based on how quickly properties sold after my campaigns launched. Within a week, I'd generated more income than I'd made in a full month back home. "You're a natural at this," said Jessica, one of the senior agents reviewing my campaign materials. "This angle you took highlighting the building's history while emphasizing modern amenities. It's exactly what luxury buyers want to hear." But even as professional success bloomed around me, my phone continued buzzing with increasingly desperate messages from home. I'd changed my number, but Jenny had somehow obtained the new one. The voicemails revealed a deteriorating situation. Mom's panic about the frozen account had escalated into health complaints. According to Jenny, she was experiencing chest pains and shortness of breath, all attributed to stress over my sudden abandonment. "She's been to the emergency room twice this week." Jenny's voice carried through my phone speakers as I ate dinner in my beautiful new kitchen. "They can't find anything physically wrong, but she's convinced she's having heart problems. She keeps saying the stress of losing you and losing access to her money is going to kill her." Marcus had apparently discovered the hidden account during one of these hospital visits. Jenny described explosive arguments, threats of divorce, and Marcus demanding explanations about money Dorothy had hidden from her own husband. The messages painted a picture of chaos and recriminations, but something felt off about the narrative. If Mom was genuinely having medical emergencies, why wasn't Marcus more supportive? If he truly loved her, wouldn't he be focused on her health rather than the money? My curiosity finally overwhelmed my determination to stay detached. I hired a private investigator named Clark Dubois, recommended by one of Sarah's clients who'd used him during a contentious divorce. Clark was a former police detective with silver hair and kind eyes who specialized in background checks and family investigations. His office in downtown Portland was modest but professional, filled with filing cabinets and computer equipment. "What kind of information are you looking for?" Clark asked, taking notes as I explained the situation. "I need to know if my mother is actually in medical distress or if this is emotional manipulation," I said carefully. "And I'd like to understand more about my stepfather's background. Something feels wrong about his reaction to the financial stress." Clark nodded knowingly. "Family money disputes can reveal people's true character. Let me do some digging." The preliminary report arrived 3 days later. Mom was physically fine. She'd visited the emergency room twice, but both visits resulted in discharge diagnoses of anxiety and stress. No cardiac issues, no physical abnormalities. The hospital social worker had recommended counseling for adjustment disorder related to family conflict. But the real shock came in Marcus's background investigation. "Your stepfather isn't who he claims to be," Clark said during our follow-up meeting. "Marcus Thompson is his real name, but he's been married to another woman named Patricia Williams for 12 years. The folder Clark handed me contained photocopies of marriage certificates, property records, and DMV registrations. Marcus owned a house in Sacramento with Patricia, where he'd been living part-time for over a decade. Patricia has no idea about your mother," Clark continued. "As far as she knows, Marcus travels extensively for work. He tells her he's in medical equipment sales, which requires long trips to rural areas with poor cell service." My hands trembled as I flipped through the documentation. Marcus had 2 complete lives, 2 complete families. The business trips he took monthly weren't business at all. They were visits to his other wife. "There's more," Clark said gently. "Tyler Morrison isn't Marcus's biological son. He's Patricia's son from a previous relationship. Marcus has been using money from both households to cover Tyler's gambling debts and legal problems." The room felt like it was tilting. "So my mother has been unknowingly funding the lifestyle of her husband's other family." "It appears that way. And based on financial records I was able to access, Marcus has been systematically draining your mother's resources for 3 years. The pattern suggests deliberate exploitation." I stared at the evidence spread across Clark's desk. Mom wasn't just a difficult woman who'd chosen her new husband over her daughter. She was the victim of an elaborate, long-term deception, which meant everything I thought I knew about the past 3 years was wrong. The drive back to Sarah's cottage passed in a blur. I sat in my car in her driveway for 20 minutes, staring at the investigator's folder, but seeing my mother's face the night of her birthday party. The cold certainty in her eyes when she said those devastating words. The way she dismissed my concerns about Marcus and Tyler as jealousy and spite. She'd been protecting a lie without knowing it was a lie. Sarah found me there as dusk settled over the neighborhood. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, sliding into the passenger seat. I handed her the folder without explanation. Her expression grew more serious with each page she turned. "Holy shit, Lillian, this is like something out of a crime documentary." "I don't know what to do," I admitted. Part of me wants to call her immediately and warn her. Part of me thinks she made her choice when she told me to leave her life. "Those aren't mutually exclusive," Sarah said thoughtfully. "You can protect someone from fraud without rebuilding a toxic relationship." That week, I threw myself into work with single-minded focus. My campaign for the historic loft conversion generated 3 serious offers within 5 days. The seller was so impressed that he recommended me to 2 other property owners, expanding my client base exponentially. "I'm fast-tracking your promotion review," Jessica announced during our Friday team meeting. "Corporate is creating a senior marketing position, and I think you'd be perfect for it." The promotion would come with a salary increase to $90,000 plus expanded commission opportunities, stock options in the company, a corner office with river views, everything I dreamed of but never dared pursue while tied to my old life. But success felt hollow when measured against the knowledge that my mother was being systematically deceived and financially destroyed. Dr. Amanda Chen, a therapist recommended by the company's Employee Assistance Program, helped me untangle my conflicted emotions during our first session. "It sounds like you're struggling with conflicting loyalties," Dr. Chen observed. "You want to protect someone who hurt you deeply." "She's my mother," I said, as if that explained everything. "And she's also someone who publicly humiliated you and expressed a desire for your absence from her life. Both things can be true simultaneously." Dr. Chen's office occupied the top floor of a converted warehouse with windows overlooking Mount Hood. The space felt calm and secure, perfect for examining painful truths. "I keep thinking about the person she was before Marcus." I continued. "She wasn't perfect, but she wasn't cruel either. What if his influence changed her? What if she's not entirely responsible for how she treated me?" "What if she is responsible?" Dr. Chen countered gently. "People make choices about how they treat others even under influence. What would it mean for you if your mother bears full responsibility for her words and actions? The question haunted me through the weekend. I walked Portland's neighborhoods exploring coffee shops and bookstores, trying to imagine a future where I never spoke to my mother again. It should have felt liberating. Instead, it felt incomplete. Clark called Monday morning with updates that made the decision more urgent. Marcus has been forging your mother's signature on loan documents, he reported. He's taken out a second mortgage on her house, your childhood home, using power of attorney documents that appear fraudulent. My stomach clenched. How much money are we talking about? The mortgage is for $200,000. Combined with the cash he's already extracted from her accounts, we're looking at significant financial fraud. Your mother could lose everything, including her home. Does she know? Based on my surveillance, Marcus handles all the mail and financial paperwork. She's been completely shut out of her own financial management. The phone felt heavy in my hand. What about the other wife, Patricia? She's in similar circumstances. Her house has also been mortgaged without her knowledge. Marcus has been running this operation systematically using both women's credit and property as collateral for various schemes. That evening, Jenny called in tears. Mom tried to hurt herself again. She sobbed. She took a whole bottle of sleeping pills. If Marcus hadn't found her. But even as Jenny described the suicide attempt, something in her story didn't align. According to Jenny, Marcus had been conveniently absent when Mom took the pills, but had returned home just in time to find her and call 911. Where's Marcus now? I asked. He left, Jenny said bitterly. Right after the ambulance took Mom to the hospital. He said he couldn't handle the stress and needed some space to think. The timing struck me as suspicious. Marcus disappearing immediately after Mom's hospitalization, just as her financial situation was becoming critically unstable, like a rat abandoning a sinking ship. Jenny, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Has Marcus ever asked you for information about Mom's finances, account numbers, passwords, anything like that? The silence stretched long enough that I knew the answer before Jenny spoke. He said he was trying to help organize her paperwork, she whispered. After her cancer treatment, when everything was so chaotic, he said she was too stressed to handle it herself. What kind of information did you give him? Bank account numbers, her social security number, the password to her online banking. Jenny's voice grew smaller with each admission. He said it was so he could pay bills while she recovered. Marcus had used Jenny as an unwitting accomplice, manipulating her genuine concern for our mother into access to critical financial information. She'd been carrying guilt over enabling his fraud without understanding what she was enabling. I've been so stupid, Jenny cried. I thought I was helping. You were trying to help, I said firmly. Marcus is a professional manipulator. This isn't your fault. But as I hung up the phone, I realized the situation had moved beyond family drama into criminal territory. Multiple victims, systematic fraud, forged documents. Marcus wasn't just a selfish husband. He was a predator who targeted vulnerable women and their families. And my mother was running out of time. I negotiated with my new company to work remotely for 2 weeks, explaining that a family emergency required my presence back home. Jessica was surprisingly understanding. Family comes first, she said. Your Portland projects can wait. Take care of what you need to take care of. The flight back felt surreal. Just 3 weeks earlier, I'd driven away from this city with no intention of returning. Now I was coming back, not as the rejected daughter seeking reconciliation, but as someone with information that could save my mother's life. The psychiatric facility where Mom was staying occupied a converted Victorian mansion on the outskirts of town. Manicured gardens surrounded the building, creating an atmosphere of calm recovery rather than institutional treatment. I found her in the common room staring out a window at the garden. She looked smaller than I remembered, her gray hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face bare of makeup. When she saw me, her expression cycled through surprise, anger, and something that might have been relief. "So you came back," she said without turning around. I came back. I suppose Jenny told you about my little episode. Come to gloat. I sat in the chair beside her, noting how frail her hands looked folded in her lap. I came because I have information about Marcus that you need to hear. Her posture stiffened. If this is another one of your attacks on my marriage... He's married to another woman, Mom. Her name is Patricia Williams. They've been married for 12 years. Dorothy finally turned to look at me, her eyes sharp despite the medication-induced calm. That's impossible. I hired a private investigator. I pulled out copies of the marriage certificate property records and photographs Clark had taken of Marcus, leaving Patricia's house. Marcus has been living a double life. Patricia thinks he travels for work. You think he takes business trips. He's been dividing his time between two families for 3 years. My mother's face went through a series of expressions as she examined the evidence. Disbelief melted into confusion, then hardened into something approaching fury. Tyler isn't even his son, I continued gently. Tyler is Patricia's son from a previous relationship. Marcus has been using money from both households to cover Tyler's gambling debts. No, Dorothy shook her head emphatically. Marcus loves me. He wouldn't... We're building a life together. Look at the financial records, Mom. He's mortgaged your house without your knowledge. He's taken out loans using forged power of attorney documents. You could lose everything. The folder trembled in her hands as she studied each document. I watched years of trust and hope crumble in real time, her face aging with each revelation. How long have you known? She asked quietly. I found out last week. I came as soon as I could arrange time off work. She was quiet for a long time, processing information that contradicted everything she'd believed about her marriage and her judgment. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a hollow quality. You must think I'm incredibly stupid. I think you trusted someone who exploited that trust. That doesn't make you stupid. Over the following days, we met with hospital staff, FBI agents Clark had contacted, and victim advocacy counselors. Dorothy's initial disbelief gradually gave way to acceptance as more evidence accumulated. Agent Rodriguez from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit explained that Marcus was part of a larger investigation into romance fraud, targeting widowed and divorced women across multiple states. Your case could be crucial to our prosecution, Agent Rodriguez told Dorothy during one of our meetings. Marcus has been running variations of this scheme for at least 5 years. We've identified 6 other victims in 4 states. Jenny joined us for family therapy sessions facilitated by the hospital staff. During one particularly difficult session, Dorothy finally acknowledged how her treatment of me had been influenced by Marcus's subtle manipulation. He was always making little comments, she admitted, about how you didn't really understand our relationship, how you were threatened by our happiness. He made it seem like choosing him meant choosing against you. I felt like I had to pick sides. Dorothy continued, tears streaming down her face. And I picked wrong. I picked the person who was lying to me over the person who was trying to protect me. The realization that her cruel birthday wish had been based on manipulated perceptions rather than genuine feelings created a complex emotional landscape. We weren't ready for reconciliation, but we achieved something more valuable, mutual understanding. Jenny revealed during another session that Marcus had threatened her to stay quiet about his suspicious behavior. He'd convinced her that Dorothy's mental health was too fragile to handle stress, and that questioning his activities might trigger another health crisis. He made me feel responsible for protecting Mom from the truth, Jenny explained. Like telling her about my suspicions would be cruel rather than helpful. As the week progressed, I marveled at how manipulative Marcus had been. He'd isolated Dorothy from her children, convinced her that our concerns came from selfishness rather than love, and positioned himself as her only reliable source of support and affection. But Marcus made a critical mistake. He returned. I was at Dorothy's house helping Jenny pack essential documents for the FBI investigation when a car pulled into the driveway. Marcus emerged looking haggard and desperate, clearly unaware that his lies had been exposed. He found me in the living room surrounded by financial records and legal documents. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded. "Cleaning up your mess," I said calmly. Marcus's mask slipped entirely. The charming, concerned husband disappeared, replaced by someone cold and calculating. "You have no idea what you're interfering with," he said, stepping closer. "I know about your little life in Portland, your new job, your new friends. It would be unfortunate if something happened to disrupt all that success." "Is that a threat?" "It's practical advice. Walk away from this. Let Dorothy and me work out our problems privately." But I wasn't the scared, uncertain daughter who'd left this house 3 weeks ago. Portland had shown me what strength looked like. Dr. Chen had taught me about boundaries. My new career had proven my capability and worth. "Here's some practical advice for you, Marcus," I said, pulling out my phone. "Agent Rodriguez is very interested in speaking with you. I'm sure he'd love to hear about your threats." Marcus realized then that his house of cards had collapsed completely. The fury in his eyes promised that this confrontation was far from over. Agent Rodriguez had prepared for this moment. When I called to report Marcus's threats, he immediately activated a plan that had been weeks in development. "We need him on record admitting to the fraud," Agent Rodriguez explained during our emergency meeting. "Your testimony is valuable, but recorded confession would seal the case." I agreed to wear a wire during a planned meeting with Marcus. The FBI would monitor from a nearby van while I attempted to get him talking about his systematic deception. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop downtown Neutral Territory where Marcus might feel comfortable enough to reveal information. I arrived early, my heart hammering against my ribs as the technician tested the recording equipment. Marcus appeared 15 minutes late, his usual charming smile replaced by cold calculation. He slid into the booth across from me, studying my face for signs of weakness. "I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday," he began. "Maybe we can reach an understanding." "What kind of understanding?" "You disappear back to Portland. Dorothy and I work through our marriage problems. Everyone moves on with their lives." I leaned forward slightly, ensuring the microphone captured every word. "What marriage problems are you referring to?" Marcus's laugh held no warmth. "Dorothy's been going through a difficult period. The stress of your abandonment really affected her judgment. She's been making poor financial decisions." "Like what?" "Hiding money in secret accounts, making loans to family members without discussing it with me. Fortunately, I've been able to help her restructure things." He was rewriting history in real time, portraying Dorothy's attempt to protect her money as irrational behavior requiring his intervention. "You've been helping her restructure her finances. Someone had to take control. Dorothy's not capable of managing complex financial decisions. The mortgage on the house, for example. She was confused about the paperwork, so I handled the details for her." My blood ran cold as he casually admitted to forging mortgage documents. "That must have been stressful for both of you." "Dorothy doesn't handle stress well," Marcus continued. "She's always been emotionally unstable. That's why she needed someone strong to take care of her." The recording device captured every calculated word as Marcus painted himself as Dorothy's savior rather than her exploiter. He described 3 years of helping her make financial decisions, always positioned as protecting her from her own poor judgment. "What about Tyler's situation?" I asked, pushing deeper. Marcus's expression darkened. "Tyler made some mistakes, but family supports family. Dorothy understood that investing in Tyler's future was the right thing to do." "Investing?" "Tyler had business opportunities that required capital. Dorothy was happy to help launch his career." Even now, Marcus couldn't admit that Tyler's business opportunities were gambling debts and legal fees. He maintained the fiction that $15,000 in bail money was a legitimate investment. "And Patricia Williams?" I asked quietly. The question hit like a physical blow. Marcus's composure cracked, revealing the predator beneath the facade. "You've been busy," he said slowly. "Patricia doesn't know about Dorothy, does she?" Marcus leaned back, reassessing the conversation entirely. "Patricia is a business relationship. Dorothy knew I had business partners. Business partners who live in houses you share. business partners whose names appear on marriage certificates next to yours. The confession that followed exceeded Agent Rodriguez's expectations. Marcus, realizing he'd been caught, shifted strategies from denial to justification. He described an elaborate system of exploiting lonely women, targeting widows and divorcees, with financial resources and emotional vulnerabilities. "These women need someone to take care of them," he said with chilling matter-of-factness. "They're grateful for the attention. They want to help someone they love achieve success. By stealing their money, by accepting their generous support for worthwhile investments, the money gets used productively instead of sitting in accounts earning minimal interest." Marcus revealed details about other victims, other women he'd charmed and exploited across multiple states. He spoke about forged documents like they were standard business practices. He described emotional manipulation as relationship management. The most disturbing revelation was how he'd specifically targeted Dorothy after reading about my father's death in local newspaper archives. The substantial life insurance settlement had made her an attractive mark. "Your mother was perfect," Marcus said with professional detachment. "Recent widow, adult children not living nearby significant liquid assets. She practically advertised her vulnerability." When the FBI moved in to make the arrest, Marcus showed no surprise. He'd realized too late that the conversation had been recorded, but his arrogance had made him careless with admissions. As Agent Rodriguez read him his rights, Marcus looked at me with cold calculation. "This won't bring your father back," he said. "This won't fix your relationship with your mother. You've just destroyed the only stability she had left." But I felt no doubt about my actions. Marcus was a predator who had systematically destroyed families for personal profit. The evidence we'd gathered would protect other potential victims and ensure he faced consequences for his crimes. Dorothy's reaction to the arrest was complicated relief mixed with profound grief. She mourned not just the end of her marriage, but the death of her trust in her own judgment. "How could I have been so blind?" she asked during one of our conversations after Marcus's arrest. "He was a professional," I reminded her. "This was his job. He studied how to exploit exactly the vulnerabilities you were dealing with." The financial damage was extensive, but not irreversible. Victim compensation programs helped recover most of the stolen money. Dorothy's house was saved through legal intervention that voided the fraudulent mortgage. Tyler's arrest as a willing participant in the scheme provided additional evidence for prosecution. His testimony, offered in exchange for reduced charges, revealed the scope of Marcus's operation and implicated other accomplices. The case attracted media attention as it unfolded. Marcus's systematic targeting of vulnerable women sparked conversations about elder fraud prevention and financial abuse recognition. During Marcus's sentencing hearing 6 months later, I spoke as a victim advocate representing not just Dorothy, but all the families affected by his crimes. Marcus Thompson didn't just steal money, I told the court. He stole trust security and peace of mind from women who had already endured significant losses. He weaponized their loneliness and grief for personal profit. The judge sentenced Marcus to 20 years in federal prison, ensuring he couldn't victimize other families for decades. As he was led away in handcuffs, I felt no satisfaction, only relief that justice had been served. 18 months after that devastating birthday party, I stood in my new Portland home watching the sunrise paint Mount Hood in shades of gold and pink. The house, a restored craftsman bungalow with original hardwood floors and a garden full of roses, represented everything I'd built from the ashes of my old life. My promotion to regional marketing director had exceeded every expectation. The position came with a salary of $105,000 company stock options and the responsibility for developing marketing strategies across 3 states. The work challenged and fulfilled me in ways I'd never experienced in my previous career. But the professional success paled in comparison to the personal growth I'd achieved. Dr. Chen and I had worked through layers of family trauma, helping me understand the difference between love and obligation, between caring and enabling. The relationship with Dorothy had evolved into something neither of us had expected: mutual respect, built on clear boundaries. We spoke monthly by phone and met quarterly for carefully structured visits. Our conversations focused on present experiences rather than past grievances, creating space for genuine connection without the toxicity that had previously defined our interactions. Dorothy had transformed her own life dramatically. The trauma of Marcus's betrayal had motivated her to enter intensive therapy, where she examined decades of relationship patterns and communication habits. She joined a support group for fraud victims, eventually becoming a group facilitator who helped other women recognize and recover from financial abuse. "I spent so many years afraid of being alone," she told me during one of our recent conversations. "Marcus exploited that fear perfectly, but I've learned that being alone is different from being lonely, and being lonely is different from being desperate." Her relationship with Richard, a widower from her support group, exemplified her growth. They maintained separate residences and finances while building companionship based on shared experiences and mutual respect. Dorothy had learned to value independence as much as connection. Jenny had thrived in the aftermath of the crisis. The guilt she'd carried about enabling Marcus's access to financial information had motivated her to study criminal justice in college. She planned to specialize in financial crimes investigation, turning her experience into expertise that could help other families. "I want to recognize the red flags I missed," she explained during her last visit to Portland. "If I can help one family avoid what we went through, everything we suffered will have meant something." My work with victim advocacy had expanded beyond Marcus's case. I consulted with law enforcement agencies developing educational materials about financial fraud recognition. My marketing background proved invaluable for creating compelling public awareness campaigns. The most rewarding project involved developing a workshop series for adult children of aging parents. The programs taught families how to recognize signs of financial abuse and implement protective measures without undermining their loved one's autonomy. "Your story resonates because it's both specific and universal," said Detective Maria Santos, who coordinated the workshops for the Portland Police Bureau. "Most people can understand the complexity of family loyalty mixed with legitimate concern." My personal life had blossomed alongside professional success. Trevor, a graphic designer who worked with several of my clients, had become my partner in adventures around the Pacific Northwest. Our relationship developed slowly and thoughtfully, built on friendship and shared values rather than desperate need or romantic fantasy. Trevor understood my history without trying to fix it or minimize its impact. He supported my advocacy work and celebrated my career achievements while maintaining his own independent interests and goals. "I love that you know exactly who you are," he said one evening as we cooked dinner together in my kitchen. "You're not trying to be someone else's idea of perfect. You're just genuinely, completely yourself." The legal aftermath of Marcus's case had provided closure for all his victims. Patricia Williams, his other wife, had become an unexpected ally during the investigation and prosecution. We'd maintained occasional contact, bonding over the surreal experience of discovering we'd unknowingly shared the same husband. "He told me you were his business partner's difficult daughter," Patricia revealed during one of our phone calls. "He said you were jealous of his success and trying to sabotage his relationships." Marcus's manipulation had been so thorough that he'd convinced each family the others were threats rather than fellow victims. Exposing his lies had freed all of us from the psychological prison he'd constructed. The financial recovery had been more complete than anyone expected. Asset forfeiture laws allowed authorities to seize properties and accounts Marcus had purchased with stolen money. Victim compensation programs distributed recovered funds proportionally among his targets. Dorothy had used her portion to create a scholarship fund for adult students pursuing education after major life transitions. The fund specifically supported women over 40 returning to school after divorce, death of spouse, or other significant life changes. "I want other women to know it's never too late to rebuild your life." Dorothy explained when she announced the scholarship program. I was 60 when I finally learned to trust my own judgment. Imagine what I could have accomplished if I'd learned that lesson at 40 or 30 or 20. My own financial security had stabilized beyond my wildest dreams. The Portland house was nearly paid off thanks to aggressive savings enabled by my increased income. I'd established an emergency fund retirement accounts and investment portfolio that would support my long-term goals. But the real wealth was emotional. I woke up each morning in a space I'd created surrounded by people who respected and valued me, pursuing work that challenged and fulfilled me. The contrast with my previous life felt almost miraculous. The phone call that had started this entire journey when Sarah suggested I consider relocating to Portland now seemed divinely timed. If Marcus's manipulation hadn't driven me to that breaking point, I might never have discovered my own strength and capability. Sometimes the cruelest words can become unexpected gifts. Dorothy's birthday wish for my absence had liberated me from a life that was slowly suffocating my potential. Her rejection had forced me to build something better than I'd ever imagined possible. As I prepared coffee in my sun-filled kitchen on this particular morning, I reflected on the deep truth I discovered sometimes vanishing from someone's life is not abandonment, but liberation. Sometimes the most difficult word can become the catalyst for the most beautiful transformation. And sometimes the family that hurts you most is the one that teaches you how to build something infinitely better. The journey from that devastating birthday party to this peaceful morning had taught me that love doesn't require accepting mistreatment. Care doesn't mean enabling destructive behavior. And family isn't just about blood relations, but about people who see your worth and support your growth. I raise my coffee cup in a toast to the sunrise, to second chances, and to the unexpected gifts that sometimes come wrapped in the cruelest packages. Here's my question for you. Have you ever had a moment where someone's hurtful words actually freed you to become who you were meant to be? Sometimes the people who reject us do us the biggest favor of our lives. Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else recognize their own moment of liberation. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that your worth isn't determined by other people's opinions, and that sometimes the end of one chapter is just the beginning of something beautiful. If this resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe for more real-life stories, and share it with someone who needs to hear that they deserve better than settling for relationships that diminish their light. Remember, you are stronger than you know, and you deserve a life filled with people who celebrate your existence rather than wish for your absence.